Excellent.
Hi, everybody. My name is Joseph Thomas, and with me is Lisa Baracella. We both work at Joiner Library at East Carolina University. I'm the Assistant Director for Collection Management and Scholarly Communication. And Lisa?
Yes, I'm Lisa Baracella. I'm head of acquisitions, e-resources, and conservation.
And we'd like to talk today for a few minutes about core competencies and job ads. How well do they match? And if we go on to the next slide, specifically, we're going to start with just a brief reminder about what the core competencies are that we're taking a look at. We'll talk for just a minute about the process we followed to date, the findings we have, the next steps, and then we hope to receive suggestions and feedback from you to improve our research study. So if we go on to the next slide, in 2013, NASIG first adopted the core competencies for e-resources librarians, and the last revisions with edits were adopted in 2019. There are 7 core competencies divided into sub-competencies. The first one is life cycle of e-resources, and this includes acquisitions. That was of particular interest to us. The second set of sub-competencies deal with technology. Research and assessment comes third. Effective communication is fourth. Supervision and management fifth. Trends in professional development sixth. And then there are 3 personal qualities that are described in competency 7. And if we go on to the next slide, how we got started on this process is we were interested in the core competencies themselves and sort of how they hold up compared to job ads that we're seeing these days. So we started looking for ads on ALA's job list and several email lists, including ARL and ACTNet. Specifically for job ads for academic libraries, these do include medical and law libraries, where there was some wording for the person who to do some daily work related to managing e-resources. It could be acquisitions, licensing, providing access in some fashion, troubleshooting. There's a variety of tasks related to managing e-resources that would put that job in our bucket. We collected some job ads to get us started and decided to use NVivo for coding and analysis. And just for myself, I would say that there's a learning curve for NVivo. So if people have tips for NVivo, please let us know. And then what we wanted to do was to use the core competencies to create codes and code these job ads to see which competencies had the greatest number of codes assigned, and to see but to start looking for some correlations. And if we go to the next slide.
All right, so this is just a little bit of a breakdown. As Joseph said, we collected up job ads, some of them going back several months, some of them very recent, some of them upon further analysis and trying to code them, we realized that they probably didn't quite fit the parameters of what we were trying to accomplish. So after we sorted through and tried some things, we ended up with about 41 job ads, and they break into various sort of findings. So we've got Carnegie class and the Carnegie size, and you can see the little pie chart breaks it out into how many of each type there is, R1 being the largest. That just happened to be what was out there for recruitment purposes at the time for our pool. And then we also have Carnegie size, and 4-year large at 60% is the biggest bucket of those. The Carnegie class other is things like the
There's some community college
Yeah,
associations.
the 4 year, yeah, exactly. And then, so that's how that breaks down. And then we further looked at, because in the future, as we go forward with this research project, we're trying to find ways that we might want to slice and dice the information to look for correlations. So we also looked at MLS, 53 yes and 47 no. And some context for the MLS is that yes means the only requirement that they would accept would be an ALA accredited or international equivalent MLS degree. No actually means they would accept the MLS, but they would also accept an appropriate advanced degree. And then there's a few that would accept either the MLS or a combination of relevant experience and training. And then private and public, 55 and 43 on that. And then some more context for the positions. These were the most common terms in the titles. You can see that breaks down. Electronic resources, really not too big of a surprise there. So some of the keywords, they did repeat. So for instance, we had one job position that was e-collections, access, and licensing librarian. So the term count will sometimes be doubled up for a job description. Some other job titles that were interesting that jumped out: electronic resource librarian, licensing librarian, resource management librarian. I thought this one was interesting: content acquisitions manager. And then there was also one that was digital resources and experience librarian. So all sorts of different titles for the job. And this is just sort of a breakdown of the terms that we saw the most. So further digging into our analysis of what we found as we started coding. So for competency 1, which is the life cycle of e-resources, 1.1, which is acquisitions, featured the most. There was licensing at 1.2. Trends was also very popular at 1.7. And then some things that were surprises were 1.4, bibliographic utility. There was actually only 3 jobs that got coded with that. And I actually don't remember them being my share of the jobs that I coded. So I don't know if they were the ones that Joseph got. So I'm interested that after this, I'm going to go back and see which of those ads were coded that way and sort of look at the wording to see. It was a surprise to me. The 40 of the 41 positions we coded had at least one element from competency 1. And we were also surprised that open access wasn't mentioned as much as we thought it might be. It was actually mentioned sort of a small amount comparatively than we thought going into it. There also is probably some potential growth for mentioning things like transformative deal, subscribe to open, other evolving scholarly communication models in the future.
And so when we looked at the job ads that were coded with competency 2 technology, 35 out of the 41 ads had at least one subcompetency related to technology. You can see that the most commonly used one was 2.7, software commonly used, with 26 out of the 35 ads referring to it. 16 of the ads referred to standards and protocols, and then there was a fairly rapid drop off. Digital scholarship, which is in red there because there are some, more and more positions being devoted specifically to digital scholarship. So that's why it's kind of broken out. It seems to be separating out from e-resources as a sort of domain of job types. The range of data has a little star there because the wording in 2.9 is almost identical to the wording in 3.1. It's familiarity with the range of data associated with e-resources and their use. So that was something that we wanted to take note of. And we actually had 0 job ads coded with hardware, database design, or preservation tools. There are only a couple of other standards related to competency 2, and they had very low use as well. And the next one, in terms of competency 3, and I see that there's a chat we'll come back around to. Competency 3, research and assessment. Of this one, 40 out of the 41 ads mentioned something related to research and assessment. The one that was used most often was the ability to collect, analyze, and interpret data. And then this one seemed to be divided sort of into tiers of commonality. 3.8 was the next highest mention, with problem solving and organization at 17 ads. There was sort of a middle tier where there were 15 and 13 mentions respectively for applying principles and emerging technologies, analyzing emerging technologies for their potential for use. And then there was a lower tier where there were 7, 9, and 10 mentions of the subcompetencies 3.1, 3.3, 3.4, which relates to troubleshooting, and that's why there's a little asterisk there, because we're going to come back around to troubleshooting in a bit, and 3.5. So we're seeing sort of divisions in how the job ads themselves talk about research and assessment. And if we go on to some general observations that are coming up for us, we did, like Lisa mentioned, we did exclude some job ads after we had started collecting them. And specifically, we excluded staff positions. We wanted to look at the librarian positions. And we also excluded assistant or associate director positions where that person only had a supervisory role and did not do direct work with managing electronic resources themselves. We also noted the duplication of concepts across competencies. I gave an example of that earlier with the data. And we see something popping up. Some things pop up in multiple competency statements as well. Specialized positions and the growth of specialized positions, for instance, licensing librarians, can often mean that the limited number of competencies directly apply. And what we're seeing now is that the job ads seem less focused on the specific technology and more on managing the resources and managing the approach to the work. So lots of ads talk about communication and teamwork and initiative and problem solving, and less on being familiar with a very specific technology. And in fact, if we want to go to a topical approach, this is something that when we think about doing e-resources work and we think about common tasks that e-resources librarians do, troubleshooting and working with vendors, are things that we do. And we wanted to see, well, if we wanted to look at troubleshooting, how is it stated in the ads, and then how do we find it in the competencies? And you can see that troubleshooting shows up in competency 3.4, that the ERL understands and uses established research methods for troubleshooting and analysis. In competency 4.5, which is related to communications, about framing situations, so that to draw on others' help for troubleshooting. In 7.2, which we haven't talked about in general, but it's a personal quality related to tolerance for complexity and ambiguity. And just maybe this is just me, but I wondered if troubleshooting should also be reflected in competency number 1 on the e-resources lifecycle. So troubleshooting is sort of divided up in multiple places. Vendors are as well. 2.9 and 3.1, the complex range of data, including vendor websites, is someplace where we see vendors being mentioned. In subcompetency 3.7.2, applying principles of research methods, including monitoring pricing and packages that vendors make available. Vendors are specifically mentioned in a couple of the communication standards, effective communication and synthesizing and summarizing complex phenomena, and in framing situations. You can see that there's something where ERLs and librarians are working together to troubleshoot. And then they show up again in 5.6.3 to utilize options for technical support as needed. And so we can go on.
So as we were working, there were recurring themes, recurring phrases, recurring wishes for qualifications, duties, and requirements that would show up in job ads that were hard to know where to code them against the core competencies. And I guess I probably should have stepped back. I think I should have said earlier, and in case it wasn't clear, when we were coding the job ads, and in fact, I actually have the NVivo screen up. I can maybe share that screen later if people are interested to just kind of get a sneak peek of what it looks like. But as we were coding them, we did look at the qualifications and, the qualifications and requirements as well as the job duties. So we didn't like just look at certain parts of job ads. We did look at the entire job ad. We would get into sort of the little opening paragraphs and the little summaries. Now, the majority of it ended up being coded on the bullet points you're used to seeing in a job ad, and some of it trickled everywhere else, but it was more than just requirements. It was also job duties. So as we were doing that, there were some things that it was like, oh, they keep talking about they want this, or they talk about they want that. And I'm not really sure what code it's best fits, and if it doesn't even fit a code. So some of those topics were strategic planning, big picture budgeting. So it wasn't just the budgets for paying for electronic resources. They were talking about wanting somebody that would speak to the entire acquisitions budget, including print books, including print journals, DIAJ topics, so collection development for diverse audiences or diverse topics. But that also includes, there was language where they were talking about they wanted people with experience or knowledge of assistive and adaptive technology in the use of e-resources. So that sort of fits into that as well. Project management software. I saw a job ad that they wanted knowledge of project management applications such as Jira and Asana. That was hard to code. Personal qualities, initiative. Every job ad says they want you to have initiative. Well, there are personal qualities sprinkled throughout the core competencies, some in communication and some in 7 and, here and there, but initiative was kind of really hard to pin down. Like I usually sort of put it in with time management. I'm like, well, you don't have good time management if you don't have initiative. So it's kind of a judgment call there. Training, some of the jobs wanted you to be able to train people. That was hard. Consortia. So if it was a large library that was part of a consortia, oftentimes the acquisitions or e-resource management work talked about doing it in a consortial environment. That was hard. And as we touched on before, some of the new models we're seeing cropping up: read and publish, transformative agreements, subscribe to open. So those were some difficult topics. So then our next steps are collect some more job ads. One of NVivo's features that we haven't delved into yet, or rather I delved into, it was very complicated, and I sort of need to circle back around and do some learning so that I can actually apply it, are case classifications. And if we do case classifications, we're going to be able to do a lot more slicing and dicing with it. We want to do some correlation. So for example, just, back of the envelope correlation so far is of the ads that we've coded, 35 of them were coded 1.1, and 25 and 24 of those were also coded with 5.1. So, we're seeing a little bit of a correlation between the acquisitions and the supervisory. So those sorts of things are other correlations we're going to look for. And then expanding it to the other competencies that are out there, like the ALA core competency for librarians and the ALCTS competencies. So job ads, sources for job ads would be great. We did have, Joseph had to go refer to the Wayback Machine a few times because he thought there was an ad and then it got taken down and then the job site didn't have it anymore before he grabbed it. Other ideas from besides where we're already getting them from. If anybody has different analytic techniques that they think would be interesting or advice for in vivo, that would be great. And we've got our contact information on there. And if anybody does want me to take the slides down and instead show the in vivo screen, I can do that. I think there was, are we doing chat questions now, or is that happening at the end?
Well, you're a little over time. We can maybe
Okay.
do a question or two if any come in. But we want to make sure Stephanie has enough time and for our other sessions to end at 5. So I don't know if anyone has any questions. Give it a sec. That was very interesting though. Thank you very much. It's really great to see that those competencies being used and kind of as intended and incorporating that and looking at how frequently they are used. That's really good.
Thank you all. Please contact us if there's anything that comes to mind.
Okay. All right. Thanks very much. All right. Stephanie, if you would like to begin sharing, we can go right into your session.
Everybody. Okay, can everybody see everything? Are you able to hear me?
If you could raise your a little bit louder, I think.
Okay. All right, can everybody hear me okay? Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Let me just get out of my screen share here. Okay. Okay, and you can see the screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I guess I'll start. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me to present. My name is Stephanie Sussmeyer. I am the metadata librarian at Richard E. Bjork Library at Stockton University. And my presentation today is titled Workflows, Workarounds, and Workouts, Successful Cataloging from a Distance. So a little bit of history of Stockton University. The main campus is located in Galloway, New Jersey, on 1,600 acres of land. Additional 300 acres of land or parcels of land located outside the main core of the campus. There's additional smaller campuses located in Hamilton, Woodbine, Manahawkin, and Atlantic City. Stockton University offers more than 160 undergraduate and graduate programs, and currently there are about 9,000 full and part-time students. And in the bottom photographs on the far left, that is the campus center at the main campus in Galloway. The middle one is the Kramer Hall in Hamilton, New Jersey. And on the right-hand side is the Atlantic City campus, which is actually right on the beach. A little bit about my library, Richard E. Bjork Library. we have about 150,000 physical items, almost 630,000 online titles, and 15 staff and paraprofessionals that work in circulation, interlibrary loan, office administration, tech services, and as coordinators. We have 7 librarians who also serve as liaisons for the programs. And amongst our staff and librarians and paraprofessionals, we have 3 that are full-time catalogers or work with some cataloging. There's me, metadata librarian. I am head of cataloging. And then we have a full-time technical library assistant who works solely with cataloging. And then a little bit of original cataloging, our special collections librarian does work on. So we are now under a library, massive library reconstruction, which has impacted an insane amount of departments and just the library as well. So we've had 8 departments, including the library, having to relocate for the renovation. On the bottom picture, you can see, and I've tried to, I apologize, the quality is not great, but I tried to capture a bit of Stockton's, they call it the academic spine, where it's one very large building with a bunch of wings. So on the right-hand side, you'll see A wing, and on the left-hand side, you'll see N wing. So the library had to move to 6 different areas. The public services, they had to move to the H wing, which you can see in the middle of the map. The circulation desk moved into the CD atrium, which is the little area between C and D wing. Library stacks moved into a classroom housing about 23,000 items, and they moved into CO1. Our remaining items have been temporarily moved off-site. Special collection offices and collections moved into 2 classrooms in CO2 and CO12. And then technical services and administration moved to Pomona House, which is actually 2.2 miles off the main campus. The construction is estimated to take about 2 years, but it could be up to 4 years pending the bid submissions. So this reconstruction is going to be bringing about just an amazing new library space. It is thanks to a $19.5 million New Jersey state bond for interior renovation. We will be getting a new HVAC system, which we are very, very excited for, and a massive enhanced learning commons, more study spaces, about 30 or over 30 spaces planned, additional bathrooms, outlets, and updated furniture, a stage area for programs, a high-tech classroom, hoping we will be having a data wall, a larger area for special collections, podcasting kits and podcasting rooms, and we'll also be bringing in to the space a Center for Teaching and Learning Design, Tutoring Center, and the Career Center. And the graphics underneath kind of show each floor of where each department may be housed and the services provided. So the main floor will have a very large quiet study, a cafe. The lower level will have graphics production, government documents, and in the upper level we'll have like the test center, a tutoring center, reading room for special collections. So this has, we've been uprooted, and it has really been an interesting journey, and it's just beginning. So it has definitely created a lot of issues with our workflows, which we have to bring about our workarounds, and we've noticed a couple of things that have actually started to work out. And the graphics here on the left, that is the aerial view of the campus in Galloway. And in the far right, the picture on the right-hand side is actually Pomona House, which is literally a house. And for a very long time, until around COVID, it actually served as a daycare for children with this, for Stockton faculty and staff. And this is where I'm housed. So because being away 2.2 miles away, I've had to adjust my workflows. I am the only cataloger at Pomona House. Pomona House right now just has the technical services and administration. So it's been a bit unique. I was able to move my card of original cataloging. Unfortunately, I cannot print my labels or special collection bookmarks, being that the cataloging printer stayed on the main campus. And I personally have to transport my catalog materials to the main campus to finish processing and also bring materials to Pomona House. And the graphics below, the very first picture is kind of when we were moving into my little desk area. You can see my cart. And then the middle photographs have my new favorite thing, which is my wheelie cart. Originally, I was carrying materials in shopping bags, and as you know, items in those Princeton boxes can be very heavy. And the walk from the Stockton parking lot to the actual campus or the main building is a bit of a walk. So by the end of the day, carrying every item, it was just very heavy, and I was worried about weather. And I feel very uncomfortable moving materials even off campus. So I asked to have this amazing wheelie cart with a lid, which is amazing, as I can kind of transport this if the conditions aren't so awesome. And in the far right corner is just kind of my new setup now. I have a shelf for all my manuals and textbooks, and I have my trusted wheelie cart there on the side. So some workarounds. As I said, I can no longer walk to my catalogers colleagues' desks. So I've scheduled myself to work on the main campus for 2 days a week and use a floating desk. Here I can do general tech check-ins and see how things are going. I do have a card of archives, which houses rare materials as well. And then I've decided to schedule monthly meetings, whether in person or Zoom, that feature any cataloging updates and ideas. When I'm not on campus, I can be reached via email, phone. Sometimes my one coworker texts me questions. So unfortunately, we do have some issues, especially if the record is problematic. Two catalogers cannot view the same record at a time in the editing view. So that has really been like an issue, but we just get around it. Any problem items go into a Stephanie's problem bin. So my one colleague can just put everything there, and when I come to visit, she can tell me what is going on, or the item will just go to me and I will catalog it. And then because we're so far apart, any official documentation such as our local cutter tables, our house rules, our manuals, they're now located on the library's Google Drive, and this cuts down having any outdated documents from everyone's desktops or printouts. So what has really worked out? I have to say, I really love the monthly cataloging meetings. It is a great time to catch up and connect. I do set aside a good 1 to 2 hours so we can really talk about any updates, any issues. I can address any concerns, and then we can talk about some really good future projects. I have the meeting agendas open for all to add any items of interest or concerns. And with our agendas, I do have the agendas and meeting notes available on the library's Google Drive so that they can be accessed at all times. And I've really enjoyed the monthly cataloging meetings so much that I will be continuing this after the library renovations have been completed. I wasn't sure at first if I was going to like being on location in 2 different locations, but I do like the options to work in both locations. It breaks up the day, and I get to see many of my fellow catalogers, but also my fellow library colleagues, as well as everybody else on the campus, so that it's good to see everybody. Sometimes I worry I will forget what everybody looks like. So I like to come in and just to say hi on top of everything. And then I do like having all of the essential updated documents saved on the library's Google Drive. And I'm not going to be sending around the documents in emails. I'll send the links, but this way there's one central location for everybody to find the documentation. And then what's next? It is still very, very early days. We have moved to Pomona House in June. Everybody else in the library, the circulation moved out in August. So we are just now handling our first semester in the C&D atrium for the students, and everybody else being where they are scattered across Galloway, basically. I've been taking some notes of what's been working, what can be improved, what may need to be addressed in the future, and I will continue to do that. We are all waiting for updates on the bids, which will determine how long the renovations will take. Currently, I've heard that they are now at the state level, not yet reviewed. They've been piecemealed, so it's not one whole bid, it's several bids. And I'm keeping an open mind. I'm hopeful that perhaps more classrooms or offices will open up in the future and everybody in Pomona House can come back to the main campus. However, regardless of what is thrown at us, we will continue to keep calm and catalog. And that concludes my presentation, and I just want to thank everybody again for having me present today. And I do believe if there is time, I can take questions.
All right, thank you very much. Stephanie, yeah, we have a few questions. Are there any workarounds that you've had to create that have inspired you to change workflows long term?
That is a very good question. I'm trying to, I don't want to silo out duties between all the catalogers, but I think it is something that I'm seeing a pattern of where I may take over some of more of the periodicals cataloging. I think I'm new in the position. I just came in November, but I previously worked in cataloging there for 13 years. And then I came back after a brief period. And now I'm a librarian there. So I'm also of what I would like to have continued, but because of the renovations and being apart, doesn't really matter. I think, I think that, the full-time technical library assistant is able to carry on certain things. So again, still early days. I'm curious, it's a good question. In the next 2 to 4 years, what the workflows permanently will be impacted. So that was a very good question. Thank you.
Okay. And then we have a couple questions. Let's see, Susan Davis, well, a couple questions about communication. Susan Davis asks, do you have access to Microsoft Teams? And says
Yes,
that our
we
library
do.
discovery teams have found that a really great communication tool.
Teams great. I don't have a cataloging Teams at the moment. That's actually a very good idea. So it'll keep all the documents or all the chats together. Right now I'm in a lot of Teams, so things just pop up and I'm like, where is everything going? But thank you. That is a very great suggestion. And I'm definitely going to make note and try to see if we can put a cataloging team there, because this way I don't have to refer to an email. So thank you very much. Thank you. That was lovely. I'm writing this down.
Okay. And Anna Creech asked if you use any sort of workplace messaging apps like Slack.
No, no, we do not have anything like that. So it's just basically email and the email that's it's phone calls and text. I think I don't think we would go to Slack. I think we would try cataloging the Teams page would work first, but that is another great suggestion. I will look into that, but thank you. But at the moment, no, definitely not Slack or any others.
Okay. All right. That appears to be all our questions, unless anybody has something else. Oh, we got one. We've got a couple minutes if anyone had any questions for Joseph and Lisa. If no one has any further questions for Stephanie. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for those two great presentations. We will be taking a break and we will be back in about 10 minutes at the half hour. So 4:30